It's about that time, folks. Today we're going to get our roundtable discussion on in 3 of the latest films. We're going to be talking about the latest Princess Diana biopic, Spencer. We're also going to be talking about the black and white shot directorial debut of Rebecca Hall, In Passing. And we're also going to get into the latest from famed director Wes Anderson in The French Dispatch. I am your host of MANN Cinema Reviews, Peter Mann. What's up, y'all? If you're new to the channel, go ahead, press like. I urge you to leave a comment afterwards down below and hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell notifying you of a new review posted to the channel. And the first film we're going to get into is the Chilean director's latest film, Spencer. This film is a slice of life rather than a traditional biopic of Princess Diana. We have Princess Diana played by Kristen Stewart. This is more of her last days. She's been covered in the tabloids recently. Her marriage to Prince Charles is flailing. And this is happening in the course over a holiday weekend at the Queen's estate. And Princess Diana is paranoid. She can't really trust anyone, especially going to the estate. She arrives without her family, and she is the last to arrive at the estate. And people in the estate, as well as those in the tabloids, are questioning her motives, her actions, and she's not making it very hard for them to do so. This film, what I liked about this film is how the director Pablo Larraín, whose last film I just was deeply enthralled with, and that was 2016's Jackie, and that starred Natalie Portman as Jackie O. This film, again, we have such a brilliant, very transformative portrayal of Princess Diana and American actress Kristen Stewart. And she really embodies this role. This film is basically on the crux of her performance, as well as the beautiful cinematography. The musical score is very haunting by Johnny Greenwood. That is the musical composer behind There Will Be Blood, as well as the member of the famed Radiohead. So he's getting very atmospheric, what we've known from the film There Will Be Blood. But this film, if you didn't know it, you can sense it has an approach of a horror film, the way that it's very atmospheric. The musical score is very haunting, very reeling, and just the performance by Kristen Stewart is just very enthralling as well. I like that it doesn't follow the traditional narrative of a biopic. It's more of a slice of life. It feels like the final days of the prolific Princess of Wales, and her main concern is her well-being and the well-being of her 2 children. And I like the fact that Kristen Stewart plays it with such a vulnerability. She plays it with tenacity as well. She's got the accent down fairly well, and I just think that she gives a performance of her career. Again, I am a fan of the director Pablo Larraín, especially with 2016's Jackie. And this film's very similar. It doesn't follow the traditional biopic narrative. It's more of a slice of life. But where Spencer differs from Jackie, I think Jackie gives it more historical context. It gives you the aftermath of the assassination of JFK and what Jackie was going through. In this film, it's more of a narrative of what if and how Princess Diana would have felt in the realm of the queen and the royal family, and how she was perceived in the tabloids and perceived by her family, with just her unorthodox and very different way she went about carrying herself. And I think Kristen Stewart paid just minute detail in the way that Princess Diana was carrying herself. It's very tragic the way Kristen Stewart plays it, and she plays it with gusto. Like I said, the cinematography, the musical score, and Kristen Stewart's performance is what makes Spencer just one of the strongest films this year. I will go ahead and give this a very strong 4 stars. Our second film is by Rebecca Hall. It's her directorial debut, and that is the latest Netflix film, Passing. It's set in the 1920s in New York City. 2 childhood friends meet up serendipitously while in the city, and that is Tessa Thompson's Irene meets up with a childhood friend, Claire, played by Ruth Negga. And these are 2 African American women, and Ruth is passing as a white Caucasian female, and she is married to an affluent white man played by Alexander Skarsgård, who's unaware of her ethnicity, and it plays with the stereotypes of white people and black people, especially in that era. Tessa Thompson has to walk the fine line, being among the elites. She is a scholar. Her husband is a doctor. And she doesn't know how she feels at first about her feelings of Claire and the way that she goes about passing as white. Having a white husband, not telling him of her past, of her family's roots. She grew up and remains in Harlem, Tessa Thompson's character. And Ruth Negga's character, Claire, ran away. And the film plays on the social construct of race, what it means to get ahead, especially during the 1920s in New York City. Alexander Skarsgård pulls no punches. He lets it be known how he feels about African Americans. He can't stand them, and he tells that outright to Tessa Thompson's character, who is fair-skinned, and I guess he's unaware of her ethnicity as well. And I think that this film is towing the line, it's blurring the lines rather, and it's pushing the envelope, and I think it's an ambitious film, especially for just a great actor in Rebecca Hall. I'm so glad to see her behind the director's chair. She is very structured in the way that she presents this film. It's in black and white. The camera ratio is that of films of yesteryear, maybe films of that era as well. She's paying, minute detail, and I love that for her in her directorial debut. I do like the performances between Tessa Thompson and Ruth Negga especially. We have Andre Holland playing Tessa Thompson's husband, and he also has a few key scenes, and I like the dynamic between him and Tessa Thompson. It's very volatile. There's trouble in the marriage, the way they feel about stereotypes and the racial divide, and you can sense that there is trouble in the marriage, and it doesn't help that Claire is right in the middle of their lives. She sneaks away to Harlem and spends time with them without letting her husband know. Alexander Skarsgård, great actor. only in 2 scenes, and I feel a bit of a plot device at the film's detriment. I didn't really care for his character. I mean, if you were going to write it with such staunch vitriol, it's just a racist character, but he is hardly in it, in brief scenes, and we know where he lies in the film's structure. Underwritten as well. Why introduce a character, especially the casting of a great actor by Alexander Skarsgård, if you're not really going to use him? Bill Camp is also a supporting character. You get a lot more nuance with him, but kind of underused as well. I just think that if we remained with Ruth Negga and Tessa Thompson's character and develop it more fully, maybe get flashbacks of when they were children as well, or just focus in on their dynamic and how it changes, how it's very welcoming in the beginning, somewhat volatile toward the ending, and it's very endearing by the film's end. And just the tragedy and triumph and ups and downs and the trials and tribulations between the women makes for a strong film. But when you have other characters that kind of get into side plots and side motives, I don't really care. We stay with the women and we see them evolve and see them play with the construct of race and how they handle stereotypes in their day-to-day lives. I think makes it for a stronger film. With that, I do give it a recommendable 3 stars. I just wish it was a stronger film. But I feel like Rebecca Hall has gotten bitten by the directorial bug, and I hope she does more films, and I'm looking forward to those films. Lastly, I'm going to briefly get into the French Dispatch. I am a huge proponent of and just stand for Wes Anderson. Ever since I could think back, my first film seeing in theaters was The Royal Tenenbaums, and probably my favorite of his to this day. I went back to watch Rushmore and have yet to see Bottle Rocket. I've gone on to see his subsequent films. I feel that he has a lot of hits, but there's been misses here and there, but not quite so detrimental. I think a lot of his films are consistent and strong and solid. I don't think he has a weak film in him. I have to revisit Life Aquatic, but to me, to this day, I've only seen it once, my least favorite film. But this film is an amalgamation of all his films. It's a love letter to journalism. It is about a fictional American news bureau set up in a fictional French town. We have the editor-in-chief, Bill Murray. I mean, this has gotten just the usual suspects in his films. It's a great ensemble cast. I just mean that it is just an ode and peak Wes Anderson. Just the look of it, the music, the cinematography, the way it's shot. It is centered on 3 separate stories that are a part of the final issue as the editor-in-chief passes away. I mean, this film also, besides Bill Murray, has Benicio del Toro, Adrian Brody, Tilda Swinton, Lea Seydoux, Frances McDormand, Timothy Chalamet, Owen Wilson, just the list goes on and on. It's narrated by Angelica Houston, so we got that Royal Tenenbaums touch as well. But I do like this film. It's one that I just recently saw as of this recording today. And I don't really know how I feel about it. I admire it. I am familiar with what Wes Anderson is doing. And again, like I said, it's peak Wes Anderson. But I think I wish I would have enjoyed it as much as I usually like a Wes Anderson film. And maybe it needs to grow on me. But as it sits now, it's it was okay. I mean, it has 3 concrete stories, all with their perks, all with their, you know, unique touches. We have the concrete masterpiece, which main characters are Lisa Seydoux and Benicio del Toro. We have the revisions of a manifesto, and the main characters are Frances McDormand and Timothée Chalamet. And then we end it with the private dining room of the police commissioner, which features Liev Schreiber, Jeffrey Wright. It just is a great ensemble cast. And you can tell it's a love story of journalism. And I gotta love that. But I just wish I would have liked the cohesion in the way that Wes Anderson presents it. It's just, it just feels like 3 films all in one, but disjointed, not a cohesive narrative that I'm used to. It is heartwarming at the end because you have the staff as well that, you know, play little characters. Elizabeth Moss is also in here. Jason Schwartzman's also in here. I just wish I enjoyed it as much as I liked his previous films. And with that, I do have to give it a strong 3 stars. With that, I just want to thank you for watching this collective Spencer, Passing, and the French Dispatch episode of MANN Cinema Reviews. Thank you for choosing MANN Cinema Reviews. I forgot to add that in my intro, as I usually do, but I'm glad that I ended it with this episode. Again, to subscribe and get all the latest information on MANN Cinema Reviews and all my episodes, on all the content that I have for my movie reviews, go ahead, press like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell, and you have yourself a wonderful day. Thank you very much.